Everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Impressions. Today is September 28th, 2021. It's Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. This is episode 45. I'm joined by my co-host Austin Taylor. Hello.
Indeed you
And
are.
I'm just going to roll right into it, man. Halo Infinite had a beta this previous weekend, and hey man, it was free tech flight. The flight test is what they're calling it. So I think I had to sign up about a month ago last time it was running to get into it, and they sent me an email, and I downloaded it on my Series S, and I was able to play with you as well because of the PC crossplay. How have you been liking it, Austin? Give me some thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean the process of getting it set up on PC is a bit messier, right? Because you have to go into like a Halo Waypoint portal, which then gives you like a Steam key for a game that's not even like really listed. You have to like activate the product on Steam. But once you get that all done, it's pretty good, all things considered. Like this is probably the actual experience of playing this once you can get into it. It's about as good as like Halo multiplayer has been since 3.
Yeah, and I will say they are definitely going back to like playing this comparatively to playing like a lot of Halo 5 is that this feels like almost a much like the title kind of shows off and what they've said in like previous like interviews about this. This feels like a best of Halo. It's got some stuff from one. There's a little bit, but it feels a lot like 3, and it feels a lot like Reach. You know, you've got these power-ups that you're picking up on the map, like that you're activating instead of like, okay, so I pick up an active camo or overshields, and I have to press a button to use them, like an equipment. Instead of previously, it was just like a hovering icon that you would pick up and you'd instantly have it. And then that's bringing up like where Halo 3, where you had the bubble shield equipment you'd throw down, or the shields you would throw down. So they're using that along with bringing up kind of guns. Like, you know, you have like your loadout when you spawn in is the regular assault rifle. It's the Halo 3, Halo 4 one. You know, but obviously it's 343, not Bungie. But it's got, I think it was like a 30-round mag in it. And
It's a 36, right? So it's pretty reminiscent of like a slightly upped like Halo Reach assault rifle.
Yep, and then you have the I think they were calling, I don't remember what they're calling the pistol.
The new pistol. I believe it's the
Yeah,
Sidekick.
pretty good name. And it feels almost like a mashup of, you know, it's got a scope like the Halo 1 pistol. It's not as strong. You're not like, this is not like what I would call like DMR territory where you have a lot of damage you're dealing, but it is very precise, and I have definitely switched to it in longer ranges to shoot people down, and so it feels like you're almost mixing a little, like I think the pistol in 5 kind of felt like this, but it was a little stronger in 5.
Well, it's really like ODST levels of like the utility of this pistol, right? Like it's not particularly good at getting past shields, but if you can get through someone's shield with like an assault rifle, it's pretty easy to switch to that pistol and immediately just cap them in the head.
And I can't tell if this is actually true, but it feels like when I'm switching to the sidekick, it does that thing where it switches weapons a little faster because it is like a sidearm. But that might just be my headcanon. But I have definitely had better matches where I end up using the sidekick a lot more early on when I don't have like a battle rifle I'm picking up, which is very strong in this game, I'll say. I've had really good times with that. But I have definitely bodied people at a medium range when they're trying to hit me with an assault rifle because they're missing their shots, and I'm usually making all of my sidekick shots and getting headshots with it, which is really cool. And that'll kind of roll me into like, so this flight test was only 4v4 Slayer, and then I think that was the first day was the only matches I was getting to with Slayer, and then I was getting some capture the flag and a almost like hold 3 objectives style mode, which I can't exactly remember, but you know, it's like domination from Call of Duty. And yeah, I suck at these. I'm really bad at 4v4. I'm kind of rusty. Normally I play bigger matches where I have distance from people and I can play very strategically. And 4v4s is so based on like Twitch reactions and being able to land your shots, but it's making me a better player as well.
Yeah, and I think about the three maps that were available to us, or at least the three maps I was able to play on, is that they're pretty small, right? And there are a lot of natural choke points, both in buildings and around like the formations that pop up in the fauna of this game. So most encounters start off with people immediately lobbing in grenades, and the grenades in this game, in particular, are pretty strong. At least they have a much wider area of effect than I would say grenades from like a Halo 3 has, right? I'm not entirely sure what they did with like 5,
Yeah, they feel
but
pretty similar to Five's grenades, but in these smaller matches, when you kill someone, they drop the rest of their grenades, and then there are regular grenade pickups around the map for regular grenades, spike grenades, and plasma grenades. So I'm usually have my base 2 frag grenades, and I'm always gonna run around getting the other ones, but they're deadly. The start of every encounter, I'm always throwing one where I think someone's gonna be. Sometimes getting some splash damage and then hitting
yeah,
someone. But they're the whole match. All my matches have been people chucking grenades.
yeah, like whether or not your grenade gets like someone's shields is like often the deciding factor in a firefight. Um, and it's not like it's kind of annoying, right? Mostly that's just because that's the only mode and maps available to us in this flight. I'm sure, like I've seen some of the larger maps that are, I guess, coming in this next sort of flight test that's going to happen this weekend, and like that's the stuff I'm interested in exploring now. Like I want to see how this all plays out once the map is like of the size of something like Blood
Yeah,
Gulch.
to say like a lot of the maps I was getting was live fire, which is like the test area, almost like a training
Yeah,
place for like the Space Marines, which came up a lot. And that one has like a lot of points where you're going in tunnels, or there are these choke points where there's like a building on both sides and there's a hallway in the middle where you're chucking them. And then there's recharge, which is on a it's like a colony world, like space station almost, or if it's like kind of like an infrastructure facility that it's just such a it's reminiscent of like older Halo maps, and even like Destiny maps that are kind of these small
it's like
hallways, and you have an open point in the middle that's really big, and you have like a first floor and a second floor you're running between.
yeah, it's like you're in one part of what looks like a hydroelectric dam, essentially.
Yep, correct. And yeah, those maps were pretty cool. I did get some of the bigger maps. I got fragmentation. I can't tell if I got fragmented, but I definitely got this one called Behemoth, which is this. It's like a covenant structure straight down the middle, and it's got like a pathway down below, and it's got like an A objective where your team spawns at, and like a B objective where it's like the enemy spawn. I was only getting it for capture the flag, so you have a ghost that'll appear. It's a red ghost because it is like the Halo. What's the RTS? Halo
The
Wars.
Halo Wars, yes, you're fighting that enemy faction in this game's
Yeah, so
narrative.
there's a lot. You see a lot of those enemy faction like weapons show up, which is like you get the red ghost and you get like some of the other guns I'll kind of talk about. Let's see if I can find what their name is. Like it's fine, but yeah, you get a ghost, and you can. I've seen people get this ghost up into like parts where they shouldn't be, like in like hallways, like mowing down people coming at you. But I've had the most fun on this capture the flag map because it is a lot bigger map, and you are kind of a singular objective. And I think I've grabbed the flag a couple times in these and gotten some really like close wins. So that was a pretty fun for me.
Yeah, no, I never. I mean, I might have just been I didn't have the time to do it, but like, yeah, I did not get to play any of these larger modes.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully this weekend I'll like probably because you can select like when you're going to matchmaking, you can select which modes you want to actively matchmake for. So probably the next this weekend I'm gonna sort of turn off the smaller like 4v4 modes
Yeah.
and see if I can get one of these bigger
I think
maps.
for me, it would show you what comes up next. It never let me select it, but it does have like it shows you what's in like a playlist. But I think next
Well,
weekend it's gonna have, hey, do you want to do big team deathmatch or Slayer? but I could never pick a match. It was
Yeah.
always saying I would quit a match if I got like a regular Slayer match I didn't want to play, or like I don't like domination. I'm really bad at it, but I got to play like capture the flag on the Bazaar one, and
Yeah.
it was like a East African, like almost like a Mombasa type area. And yeah, that capture the flag was really good there. I had a good moment where I grabbed an active camo, stuck it, and I crouched walked all the way to like an enemy flag, killed someone, took their flag, ran it back. Lots of fun. When you have the flag and you're running, they can see you, but if you're crouched with the flag, you don't show up on the radar. You're not like location pinned.
Mm.
So
So it's not like actively like showing you the flag on like your
yeah, because
HUD.
if you're running the flag and you're sprinting, or if you're like regular walking, it will show the location of that flag bearer on the map, so that people are running at
Oh.
it. But if you're like crouch walking, they won't show up. Um, there were really fun moments that came up where the enemy had our flag and we had their flag, and you cannot score a flag like goal if both flags are gone. Your flag has to be at your base to return the enemy flag to your base to score a point. So we had moments where both flags were on the other side. Like our flag was at the enemies and the enemy's flag was at ours. And so I ran over there, and they're huddled up. There's like there's like the one dude who's holding the flag and like two of them who are sitting there protecting the guy, and we had to drop that group of people before we could score the point. So that's where some really fun situations can come up and capture the flag, which I could like see myself playing more of compared to like regular Slayer, which is just you respawning kind of close to your team and going into fights, throwing some grenades and dying and restarting that whole thing. Whereas objective ones, I tend to gravitate more towards.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like I think Slayer is like in this game like still like very fun. It's just again like I would like to explore Slayer outside of 4v4 on very small maps that all seem to encourage just lobbing grenades into doorways.
Yes, I have not perfected the skill of the perfect lobbying of a grenade or
No.
getting like headshots with like. I will say the AR is really hard to get headshots with. It does have a really big bloom. It is definitely feels like a closer range weapon,
Yeah.
which they kind of offset with the Commando, which is like their new, almost like I would call like the Call of Duty style aim down sights. Has a holographic sight, but it's like a 20 round shot, and it's like it's a slower fire rate
Yeah,
but
like a
longer
big
range.
slow fire rate, bigger slugs. Like it's just it sounds like heftier and is like much more useful at getting precision shots while still like spewing bullets out.
So yeah, hey, let's
Um,
talk about the weapons. I think the Commando is like my fan favorite of the new weapons so far. For me personally, how about yourself?
I mean, like I'm looking at all these. The Commando's the only one that makes like an immediate impression because I did not have the time to sort of learn the banished weapons, the sort of the alien weapons in it, because they're like these all seem to serve like very specific purposes that I don't think in Slayer specifically really fit that well. So it's like, yeah, the commandos kind of stand out, and like so are the other like human weapons because they're just very easy to use. Um,
Yeah,
that being said, like when you see people do stuff with something like the shock rifle, right, which can not only serve as a really good sort of because you shoot out like a lightning beam, right? So it can serve as like a pretty effective like headshot weapon, but also can be used to electrify uh, weapons on the ground and parts of the map to damage people near them. Uh, that those kind of weapons with those sort of nuanced functions, I just didn't have time to get into. So like my big mainstays for this demo were the commando and the battle rifle.
and hey, the battle rifle feels good.
The battle
It
rifle
feels
feels
like it
good.
has a little more damage, and it looks like the battle rifle should. It's got the bigger scope, and not like Halo 5 has like the U scope, and it's a lot. The range isn't as far because I don't think they have the DMR yet, which maybe they'll add it later. Maybe they're keeping it out in place of like mess around with like the pistol having the scope and like the commando having a longer range. But the battle rifle feels like it's in a good spot, and whenever I've had it, I've always gone on. Most of the time, I've had pretty good kill streaks, and I know how to use it because I'm so used to like 3-round burst rifles, like pulse rifles in Destiny, or even going back to like only using the BR in Halo 2 because there was no assault rifle in that. So that was a good time.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You know,
The only weapon I got to use a lot more that was the banished weapon was the Ravager, which is like this. It's like
like charged,
yeah, so it's like an energy
right?
grenade launcher that you can charge up and shoot a
Mm-hmm.
bigger shot. But when you're just shooting it normally, it'll shoot like 3 little volleys of like energy grenades at the ground and do splash damage. So I was getting into points where it was like the domination mode, where there is a Ravager on the wall that I can grab. Like there are weapons like scattered around these maps that you can pick up in your spawns, and
Yeah,
there's like a power weapon
yeah,
that'll
arcadey.
sometimes spawn in the middle. But yeah, I would take this to an objective and drop 2 people who were trying to attack it or using it while I'm attacking them. And I think this weapon's pretty cool. This is like the one that I've messed around with the most and had the most like success with, comparatively to the Heat Wave,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is not a gun that I feel like I've had like um, a lot of kills with. It has,
Yeah, because the heat
yeah, go
wave
on.
is it's like a sort of like shotgun seeming thing, right? Where it shoots out like a sort of spray of these energy like balls in the sort of pattern of a line that can either go horizontal or vertical. You know, kind of reminiscent of like the Dead Space like plasma cutter,
Yeah, and when you click like
right?
LB, it'll flip. It'll go from horizontal to vertical, so you can flip back and forth. The horizontal one doesn't seem to have. I haven't gotten a lot with that. It will bounce off walls, so if you know there are people around a corner, you can shoot it a lot. I think I'll have more fun with this in the
Mm-hmm.
campaign, definitely. Yeah,
Probably,
but when you switch to
and it
vertical, you can definitely like one shot someone if you land that shot. But
yeah, if you land all
it
of it.
feels a little longer range than a shotgun, but it acts like it. It's almost like the fusion rifle from Destiny, except you're not charging it up and you're just
Uh-huh.
shooting it. But it has a little longer range than like a shotgun would sit in. But not as much of a time with it. I've gotten a couple kills with this third weapon. I think this is a human weapon. Might be a. I think it's a banished weapon. It's the fucking skewer. It's the fucking
Yeah, that's
yeah. It's the
banished.
giant anti-tank spike that you can one hit fucking people with in multiplayer. I've
Yeah,
gotten a couple one
it's a
hits with this. It
harpoon
feels good.
gun.
It's hard. It's very hard to get shots at this because you have to be so accurate, and it's got a longer like um, projectile speed, so it takes a little longer to get there. I feel like, or kind of. I don't know. It's not as slow as like a rocket, but it'll throw it, but it just feels like if I'm off just a little bit, I'll miss someone. Is what I'm kind of trying to get to.
Yeah, like it requires a real precision that I definitely don't have. I think I picked it up once in a multiplayer match. I fired it at an enemy and missed immediately. It's like this is as soon as I realized how you use this weapon, it's like okay, this is just not happening, and I immediately put it back. Like I picked my pistol back up, and just never touched it again.
Yeah, the pulse carbine's pretty cool. That's the kind of replacement for the plasma rifle and the Covenant carbine. It's somewhere in between. It fires like a burst of plasma, and it has it is sits somewhere between the Covenant carbine and the plasma rifle, where it's doesn't have the range of the Covenant carbine,
Yeah,
but it does have like I've dropped people's shields with this and switched really fast or like punched them. But I've had not as much luck with it as like I love the Covenant carbine. It's one of my favorites, and I kind of miss it. But it's okay.
yeah. I mean, it's just like this pulse rifle doesn't, or the pulse carbine doesn't have a lot of like personality to it. I'll say like it is this weird like amalgamation of that rifle and the carbine in such a way that I'm just kind of confused as to why I would pick this weapon over others.
Yeah, I say I have a better time with the pulse carbine than like the plasma pistol. But as far as like Covenant weapons go, I would rather have a Needler because that thing fucking wrecks.
Yeah,
Still,
I mean the other thing about yeah the Needlers. incredibly powerful, and the plasma pistol still has the function of fully disabling shields in a charge shot, or disabling a vehicle for a limited amount of time.
Oh, I forgot you could use the plasma pistols for vehicle stuff. I haven't done that yet. I should mess with that.
Yeah, that was big in like ODST. Um, because you're so like squishy in that game, is very useful. But I mean, yeah, it's just like the carbine. I guess like if you're trying to get through shields very fast, because that's kind of always been like the thing with the plasma rifle. The carbine might be useful, but I've had pretty similar results in just unloading a magazine of the assault rifle into someone and then switching to a
Yeah,
pistol.
and to the last one I'll talk about is the new shotgun, which not as
Mm,
good. I've had some okay stuff with it, but it feels different enough that it is almost not in a good way, I will say.
yeah, I mean it's just this bulldog, right? It's the bulldog, which is a fine name for a shotgun. It's this much shorter than like the traditional Halo shotgun. It's not a pump shotgun anymore. It has like a barrel, um, or drum magazine, I should say, and you're firing like very rapidly. It doesn't have the sort of, I think at this point, the iconic stopping power and feel of the Halo shotgun. And it's also not in the rotation of like power weapons, right? Because this game, when you enter a multiplayer mode, identifies the power weapons on the map, right? Identifies where your rocket launchers are, where your overshield pickups are. Uh, and this bulldog is not one of those, right? It's just a standard weapon, and it's useful, right? There's a use purpose for it, and that is like unloading this, I think, eight shot like drum magazine into multiple people, but only if they're like very close.
Yeah, you're not like one-shotting someone at full shields with this like you would like it. I feel like if you got a headshot with the regular shotgun and older Halos, you could drop someone in one hit.
Wasn't even a
Yeah.
headshot. Didn't even need to be a headshot.
So this has I've gotten like two shots will drop someone, but yeah, it's a little faster firing. The range isn't as far, and it does have like a slide like pump, but it's like a grip pump. And then when you're reloading, you drop the drum and you put a new one in, and it takes a little longer. Like with the older shotgun, you could reload two shots into it and kind of go back to shooting people, or you could do the full reload from the top. It's
Yeah,
different. I'm getting used to. I think this is another thing where this I could have more fun with this in the campaign, where like you're breaching a place and you just want to drop a bunch of grunts, and you have like 8 shots to do it in.
yeah. I think every weapon that I'm relatively skeptical of in this multiplayer fight is like the reason for the skepticism is that I just don't have a space where I can really effectively test these, right? Even with the AR like training program that's in one of the submenus of this game where you can just like use weapons on a firing range, I don't think it's particularly it doesn't ask you to look at the functionality of these weapons and examine how you can use them in different situations. And I think that's why I'm interested in still looking at like this campaign, even though everything we've seen from the campaign has been iffy into its quality.
Yeah, I think I had a good time testing some of these in the AI matches where you don't like to leave the match. You have to quit. There's no like kill count. It's just because it's just AI
Yeah,
training. So I set
yeah, it's just training.
the AI. I set myself, and I had one companion with me, like one friendly AI, and then I had 4 enemy AIs, and I set them periodically from like easy to normal to mostly between easy and normal because I was just messing with weapons. And you can choose your exact
Yep.
loadout and re-give yourself ammo. And when you hit pause, it pauses the whole simulation. So I got to mess with like the gravity hammer a bunch and play with it and see it with like conjunction with like the active camo. And then I got to mess with the bulldog a
Hmm.
bit and kind of get used to like how it is definitely different than like the regular shotgun. So that feels like it's a little more useful, and I hope they keep that. That was something I really liked playing around with, and I hope that's in the final like release.
Oh yeah. I hope so too.
But yeah, so far it's cool. I can't wait for the test this weekend for the big team capture the flag and big team Slayer stuff. I think that's kind of. Oh, the last thing. I sent you a link. I guess I want to talk about the battle pass a little bit. There is battle
Hmm.
passes in here,
Yeah,
and I got a couple like
this is like a
cosmetic
free
stuff. Yeah,
game.
I got some cosmetics from it. Uh,
Yeah.
someone data mined some stuff out of it, and there's a bunch of like these look like stickers or magnets you would normally buy that are turned into. They're almost like memes in Halo. Like there's the I'm okay with this fire around me, except it's a grunt looking fucker. I don't know if you have this thing open, but these are pretty.
Yeah, I'm
These are
looking
pretty
at it.
okay. I hope these are like stickers you can, or they look like patches. Actually, they look like patches, and I hope you can throw these on stuff. Oh my god, there's a reindeer antlers ready for Christmas to get my my Master Chief like antlers. So
Yeah, I don't think like we're looking at sprays that you put on a wall. It seems like these are going to be emblems that yeah are going to go on your armor and also in your profile when people look at that. Based off of what I'm reading, like I'd say the interesting other stuff that we're seeing is like people also data mined the vehicles that aren't in the openly in the technical flights right now. So like we are seeing what the Banshee might look like and what the Scorpion tank might end up feeling like in the final product, which
huh.
is both of these seem pretty cool.
I'm pretty ready for that because I've only messed around with the red Banshee. Ready for it. Damn, that thing looks
Yeah,
fucking sick. Yeah, ready for and then there's a Wraith on here too. It's like mostly black with like a red back to it. And the Wasp is on here. Cool,
oh
dope.
yeah, it's all like it's this game is shaping up to be something like really cool. Like this is kind of impeccable Halo in a way that I think they needed to push out.
Well, they had this
Uh,
opportunity to like four. I can't remember exactly. People seem to be kind of okay with four. You know, it was 343's first game, and then people didn't really like five as much, and especially the multiplayer stuff with the cards, where that got a lot of really negative press, and I don't think it like shot off as far as they want. I'm sure they were both successes to a certain degree, but not as like a Call of Duty success as I will say. Like get pushing past that. So I think everything they're doing right now with making the multiplayer free, doing like an open world campaign. It's only single player right now, which that's kind of a bummer. Because I know there are a lot of people who launch night of Halo is me and my friends beat the campaign co-op for like certain crowds of people. But if the multiplayer is there, then you kind of have an option too. So those are coming with the first update. Is the campaign co-op? But yeah, they're doing stuff with this game to make it like great. It's got crossplay. It's got launching at the same time on PC and Xbox, and then even like an Xbox One can play this to a certain degree. Is what I believe. We'll have to see when it actually happens when it comes out. So I'm excited. Yeah.
yeah, they're not. I mean, Microsoft's not at the point where they're like going to leave the Xbox One platform behind yet. Like they need, like they want this game specifically to, be a platform, and so they're gonna like they are going to have to like make sure that the Xbox One is, you know, is a playable like console for this. Is it like a valid way to play this
And
game?
from what I've felt like, the Xbox line of systems is much more similar to almost like a PC, where you're almost doing low settings for something on like an Xbox One, where your Series S and X are high settings, and then you have the SSD, which makes the load times faster. But I feel like that is much more compatible to each other compared to like the PS4, PS5.
Yeah, it's like I mean the thing is like the Xbox One as it stands right now. It's like that quote from Don Matrick back when they unveiled the Xbox One the first time was that they have a was when they were saying that they had like a platform for people who like couldn't get into like the Xbox One, and it's called the Xbox 360, except it's a platform they left behind pretty quickly, all things considered. it's like that quote, but like they're actually going to, go through with that.
Yeah, and they're still they have I think they discontinued the 1X at this point, but they're still kind of making 1S's and giving them to people. Like I have a 1S. It's a smaller console. It looks pretty nice. And they have that digital only version with no disk drive, which cuts down the cost. And I think they're still putting out the regular one. But they are going to have that xCloud thing where if you cannot get your hands on a new console and you have these, or like I see them on sale on Amazon before the pandemic, before like chip shortages were a thing. I don't think they're on sale as much, but you can get one used if you want to. But yeah, xCloud with Game Pass Ultimate, you can stream what is similar enough to like a Series X performance through to your console if your internet's good enough. And you can have like the ideal situation for that is like, yeah, I have an Xbox One S, I'm streaming Halo Infinite, and it plays like it's a Series X. Don't know how that'll be for multiplayer. We'll see when that rolls out in December, which I think they're rolling out the xCloud stuff on console along with Halo Infinite in December, so they kind of have their eggs in one basket for that. So I'm curious what it'll be because I'm going to have it. I'm going to play it a bunch and see how it is because I have my 1S still. So I'll be able to mess with some stuff. But yeah, Microsoft's doing a good time, doing good stuff right now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really exciting release in every way that I've seen so far. Like everything from how like well made this multiplayer seems so far to the glitches I'm looking at right now and how wacky these are this is what I want to see out of a Halo.
Oh yeah, there was that glitch I saw where someone posted that there was just a bunch of wet floor signs that were just like multiplied into like one of the maps.
Yeah, if you like throw like the new grenade type, which is this like static grenade type that seems to have similar attributes to like the shock rifle, right? It seems to generate an infinite amount of wet floor signs, and there's also the that video of if you swap weapons while doing a melee attack, you cancel the animation. So, like, what your character does is just seemingly an infinite loop of melee attacks very quickly, and it's just a video of them pummeling another player to death very quickly.
Good.
I really hope they keep that in the game because that seems fun.
All right, I think we've gotten our 30 minutes of Halo in. We checked off that box for the week. There will be more next week.
Yeah.
Come back to it. Caveat here. Okay, so we're gonna talk about some Life is Strange 2 colors, and then we're gonna get true colors.
The two colors of Life is Strange.
It is red, it is orange, and it is blue, like every 2010 fucking movie poster. And then we're going to talk about Sable. I forgot to say that at the top of the show, but yeah. So the caveat here is I'm not playing this, Austin. I've been watching Nextlander play it, but I think it's close enough to say like, hey, I have thoughts about this, and I have enjoyed it so far. Enough to where Nextlander, which is like some of the former like Giant Bomb alumni who started their own thing, new company, I will say. So they have played I think it's about the first chapter. It's about 3 hours, and then I've kind of watched a little bit because someone, they did the thing where they play the whole game. There's no commentary, and they upload it to YouTube, and you kind of watch it as a movie. There's two versions I found on YouTube. There's one where they keep the music, and then there's streamer mode where you cut the music.
Where like all copyrighted music gets cut.
And this game uses a lot of copyrighted music in different ways to play with the characters. Like Alex plays the guitar at one point. She's the main character of this. Her name's Alex Chen. She's returned to her hometown of Haven Springs, Colorado, after 8 years to reunite with her brother. And she plays the guitar, and she is singing Creep by Radiohead at one point after some like kind of traumatic stuff happens to her. And it is so awkward and funny, but it's fun in a way because like the Nextlander videos have done it in a fun way to where we can both kind of laugh at this. But I've really enjoyed going back and listening to her sing that. I don't know if the actual voice actress sang it or if they got someone else, but it's...
No, it's a So the vocal performances by Alex Chen, by her character, are performed by MX Imtune, I think is that artist's name.
Gotcha. But yeah, that vocal performance was really good and pretty like touching as well. It's like we were talking about like facial capture stuff when we were talking about Quantic Dream last week, and I think this game definitely does a lot with facial capture. It does a lot of the smaller, subtle, like face twitches and like emotion, the micro emotions that kind of show off, like your eye being raised slightly or your like the mouth movements. It's not as high fidelity. Like I will say, like the Quantic Dream is like an extreme fidelity of like those type of character models, but I really like it in True Colors, and it is done very well. And all the characters are stylized in the
Yeah,
Life is Strange way of doing characters.
yeah. There's a style and an aesthetic that exists in Life is Strange that is not necessarily about capturing all of the pores on your actor's skin in the same way that like your big budget sort of capturing methods that are used by Quantic Dream and other studios like Naughty Dog are about.
Yeah, they're not going
And
for
like,
complete photorealism. There is almost it's not a comic book feel, but it's very like, you know, it's almost like a graphic novel come to life in a way. Like those series of like dramas that are in like the graphic novel like subset, and it's almost like
yeah,
it's not as cell shaded or as cartoony as like the Tales from the Borderlands stuff or the Telltale stuff, but it is its own thing. People have seen this game has been around for a while. I think the first game came out in 2012, maybe.
um, around that time,
Sorry,
I
I looked it up.
think, or it might have
Let's
been.
see.
It might have been later. I think I was in
Oh
college when I
yeah,
played that first game, but I think I came to it late.
I came to it. Yeah, I came.
Um,
I think I got like a. It's 2015 actually. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
They put
So
out a
like
couple of these.
like my first semester of college, because I remember playing that during a break. That first game specifically during a break. And like after I did that sort of what is considered the good ending of that game, like I was emotionally upset for like the better part of a
Yeah, I
week.
haven't finished my Life is Strange 1 like viewing yet, so I'm curious. I've heard things about the ending. I think um, Giant Bomb, when it was Vinny, Alex, and Austin, play that on the whole thing on some streams, so I might go do that as well. But so to compare this to the first game, the writing has felt less like a 40-year-old writing a teen, which has been very nice. That's one of the things that you kind of feel like in that first game. They do play with like movie references and stuff in that first game, and they do that in this. But for like music, like they Alex gets Gabe, who is her brother, a out like okay, this game is set in 2019, and she gets a vinyl of I'm trying to a Kings of Leon album, and then they play the Kings of
Hmm.
Leon song, and they're both like she's like air guitaring on like a broom, and he's like drumming and dancing awkwardly, and there's no music again.
If you turn on in
In
the
stream
stream
mode.
mode, there's no music. All the only sound is them like doing these motions and like the scuffing of their shoes on hardwood
Yeah,
floor.
which is very funny.
Um, it's hilarious. It's great.
But so far, yeah, I have really enjoyed the narrative so far. I don't think it does the Life is Strange thing where it tugs at your heartstrings with these characters, and I like
Oh yeah.
Alex Chen a lot, and I like her brother Gabe a lot, and you get to meet these people in this town who they all know Alex because Gabe has been talking about them so much. So Gabe works
Yeah.
in a restaurant kind of bar who's led by this guy named Jed, who almost looks like a Paul Bunyan statue. Like he's just plaid, beard, hair. It's very funny. He looks like a Paul Bunyan statue, and he has a his restaurant's on the first floor, and the second floor is like a living area, and I think Jed is letting Gabe pay him rent to live up there. And the second floor looks like the movie equivalent of like everybody's like dream house where you've got like a foosball table, there's a bike in there, there's a bunch of cool LED signs. It's like the coolest place you would want to be if you were a kid. So Alex
Yeah,
comes
like
back and they're settling in at this this living area, and she's like looking at all this stuff. I'm like, wow, Gabe really set this up. And then, but Gabe also lives with, or he's dating Charlotte, and her son, Charlotte's son, is named Ethan. And so I think they're both living with Gabe right now. Yeah, they are. But so you're kind of meeting them as well, and the other side characters. I think this. I'm gonna kind of. Do you mind if I spoil it? Because I think they showed this off in some trailers or some stuff later.
with like the big sort of
Yeah.
inciting incident of this plot. Yeah, like
Okay.
I know what happens. Like I'm not looking like I'm not actively like watching
Mhm.
this game right now because I would like to play it at some point. But like I understand the plot or like what sets the plot off well enough.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of get into it because I want to talk about it a little more. The first chapter ends with you trying to rescue Ethan after he's gone off to try to have this kind of adventure to help him write this comic book he's doing. And
Hmm.
in trying to rescue him, there is like you're in a, because I think this is like a coal mining town or it's like a mining town, and there's some demolitions that were supposed to get called off so you could go rescue Ethan, and they ended up
Yeah.
blowing some stuff, and some boulders come down, and they throw, one of them hits Gabe, and you're connected to him on a line because you were trying to rescue Ethan at some point. And so the character Ryan comes up and cuts the line after Gabe gets hit by a boulder and he goes off a cliff. So the first chapter just, Alex is there for a day after not seeing her brother for like 8 years, and Gabe passes away and he dies. And so you're with the town right after that as everyone is grieving. You come out of like a eulogy with them and you're talking to everyone. And like Charlotte, his girlfriend, is really like kind of, messed up or distraught. And Ethan, her son, is really, really distraught because Gabe is kind of his father figure. So there is that
Yeah.
thing of these Life is Strange things where you end up trying to become a problem solver, which I felt like a lot in one. You are maximizing yourself as like a good person in the way these games play out as well. And that shocked me. I didn't remember that at all when it happened. I was like, God damn it. They so perfectly set this up to where you really, really, really like Gabe, and then he's out, and that's where the plot goes from there.
Well, yeah, it's like it's using, and that's something new for like Life is Strange. Like it does use like character death often as like the inciting incident. Like the inciting incident of that first game is you, Maxine Caulfield, like watch a girl get murdered in the girls' bathroom of your school, and that activates your time rewinding powers. In the second game opens with, the main characters watching their father be killed by police, and that's what makes your younger brother sort of activates his telekinetic abilities.
Yeah.
So like the trauma of a loved one's death is pretty standard Life is Strange fare, and is something that that they've often used to motivate you to investigate or to incite your adventure, whether that be um, the trek across America in Life is Strange 2, or the sort of investigation into the underbelly of Arcadia Bay in that first game.
Yeah, and I almost had my like expectations kind of flipped because originally in watching this, I just thought it was Alex coming back. She had been in previously. She had been like the foster system, and she's coming back because Gabe had been trying to find her for a couple of years, calling many different like social services and foster
Yeah.
parents to see what's going on. And I hadn't gotten, I hadn't even talked about like the crux of this, which is like Alex has, much like other games, has like a special power where she, when other people's emotions are like extreme to a point, she will encompass them and like feel them, almost like they call it like the power of empathy. But there's a point
Hmm.
that shows up. It's done actually very well. I've actually like really liked the way they've been using it. Like there's a character named Mac who is a friend of Gabe's, and Mac is dating someone named Eleanor. Not Eleanor, Riley, sorry. Eleanor is Riley's mom. So Riley works at a flower shop and is in college. Gabe has been trying to help Riley study more and get through college. Mac thinks Gabe is cheating, or Riley is cheating on him with Gabe. So Mac comes by, and Mac is an asshole to all degree. He is like the angry, stereotypical angry boyfriend, like archetype, and he basically punches Gabe, and Gabe is on the ground. He's kicking him, and you see this like red aura come over Mac, and you see Alex like starting to mimic his kind of twitches and kind of things that he is saying, but she can kind of use that to... She basically knocks fucking Mac down to the ground and starts punching him like the kid from the Christmas Story, where she's just on top of him punching him in the face, which has gotten her in trouble before previously, where they say at a moment where someone came into the bathroom at her school and tried to harass her and got angry at her because she told them to leave, and then they got angry and she got really angry and put them in the hospital or something like that. So, and then that shows up elsewhere with like people having anxiety or fear or like sadness. And I think it's done it well so far, where I've never been like, this is too cheesy or too far. And it's worked for me personally, I'll say.
Sure. I mean, my thing with that and sort of demonstrating the sort of having any sort of emotional empathy, or like having her degree of emotional empathy as this sort of power or sort of supernatural element that allows her to sort of interact with the world in a different way. It it is kind of fraught just on the basis that there is a degree to what you're participating in True Colors that does feel like emotional manipulation, like through this superpower. And again, that's something new for Life is Strange in general, right? Like this is something that you would do all the time in that first game. But like the way that like these people do feel emotions very strongly, and like neither of the situations that like you described like make Alex's sort of surge of emotion seem particularly unreasonable. Uh, but like the way that you will like sort of the thing that I am sort of concerned about is like the way that that player character will sort of draw in the feelings of those around them and use that to inform like the RPG or the gameplay decisions of like the of how do you handle the situation, and use that to like manipulate it to sort of pursue their own ends
Yeah, and that leads me to
more
the
than anything else.
point after these situations where after Gabe has passed away, or they have the eulogy, that there is a
Dang it.
character who's grieving named Steph, and she is a friend of
Yeah,
Gabe's,
Steph.
and she is emotionally distraught from this. And you are at their Gabe's dwelling, and you find like a foosball trophy that's like a label on a whiskey bottle from before. And so you end up reading the emotions of Steph, and then any objects around it that have like strong emotional resonance. Like you can feel stuff from the bottle and from certain stuff. Like this is like tutorialized earlier,
Yeah.
in that you can touch certain things in the apartment and like get a feeling about them to a certain degree. It's almost like it's not like a power. It's almost like a X-Men like thing where it's like pushed off from like, a normal, like what I would call like a superhero character, where it's like this is a unique thing that can be used in storytelling. But like I was saying earlier, you end up trying to become like a problem solver, and you're doing that. It's there's like a line. It's emotionally manipulative, but you're also trying to, from what I've seen so far, is you were trying to help Steph get through like her stuff, her like the extreme like trauma that happened when, after Gabe's eulogy. And so you are trying to help her get out of it. You're trying to help people, but you can also
Yeah.
read people. You're not reading people's minds directly, but you're getting this strong like stuff about like you kind of read people's minds a little bit. You kind of like you go and talk to a character named Eleanor who's losing her memory. So you're getting snippets of her talking about like I don't remember this stuff going on and I don't remember where I left these bills for certain things. And you're trying to help her piece it back together in a certain way. And kind of like Life is Strange 1, you are trying end up I don't remember how much of it was, but I remember in the first game, you kind of manipulate stuff to get like the best outcome, which is kind of what they're doing in this, where you want the storytellers as well as like your kind of choices. You want Alex to help everyone else, and I hope they end up dealing with that in a way to where she's also dealing with the trauma of losing Gabe as well as helping other people with the trauma, and then so forth after that. But I hope it's not just a story of Alex helping people through her like it's a little less than emotional manipulation, but it's almost there because you're still trying to help people too.
I mean, whether or not you're helping people is irrelevant. Like, it still is. Like, the situation with Steph is like, is gamification of like working through trauma, right? Is like trying to do it in a way that is convenient enough that you can make a relatively compelling gameplay mechanic out of it. Because like in the real like kind of nitty gritty version of that encounter where you're trying to sort of console Steph, you're just listening to this character speak. Like you're listening to them talk about Gabe. You're talking like you are sort of going back and forth. You're asking them about these items and the sentimentality of the place that they're around without needing to like have all this pointed out by a visual effect, which is and that's fine. Like that's like part of like you have to make this fun for people too, and that's kind of the thing. And so like it's always going to get messy in that way. I'm not like angry about it, I don't think, but I'm just like it is just something to sort of be aware of in the conversation of this series, especially as it will continue beyond this, I imagine, and how they go forward with that if they decide to continue to sort of emphasize some supernatural element to it, such as the time stopping abilities of Max Caulfield, the telekinetic powers of the protagonists of that second game, which I haven't played, so I don't know their names, and the emotional sort of reading abilities of Alex Chen.
Yeah, and this game almost reminds me of Psychonauts 2 came out not too long ago, and you are almost doing the same stuff in that, where you are going into people's minds to help them in a different way. But there is like that point in Psychonauts 2 where you change someone's like train of thought enough to make them to that ends up hurting them, and they tell you, hey, you shouldn't do that. So yeah, it's like if this thing was real, it's like, yeah, you should have some there are
Yeah,
constraints that should be had with this. It's like much comics say, especially Spider-Man, hey, with great power comes great responsibility. And I don't know if this game is interested in talking about that. I haven't Most of the playthroughs have been about 7 hours, so there is still time. I'm just curious if the game is going to talk about that or if it just wants to gamify you helping people, which for me has been very successful so far. Like, I've really liked the ways in which it does, like, you are reading the objects and then talking to people after and trying to, like, pick certain ways of talking to people to have, like, a successful like conversation and helping them, where it does feel
yeah,
natural. It
like
feels natural to a certain point. Like like your conversations with people have felt natural enough, and like the way that this game and the creators think about these characters and the ways that your interactions with them do end up helping them. I mean, they do have like, hey, these are your choices. This one is going to be the successful one, which is like the way they wrote those characters. But I think it's done well enough to where it's believable to a certain extent.
yeah, and like and the thing is like any criticism I levy at this game is not going to be enough to get me to like not want to play it, right? Like I will at some point by playing, go through this game, and probably be very emotional the whole time I do, right? Like I will go through the inciting trauma, and then I'll spend like the next 4 or 5 episodes of this like package going through being a sleuth and like having like a Hallmark movie of a time, and like I'll probably love it. Like they're fun games. Like even the biggest sort of criticism I think that can be levied against it is perhaps the lack of like reconciliation that the narrative supposedly doesn't do towards like the Alex's status as a Asian American woman, and like how that fits into the environment of Haven Springs. That's a piece that you can read on the Washington Post. Uh, but like that criticism is something to keep in mind, even, but it's not going to keep me from like probably having a heck of a time when I get around to this game.
Yeah, in my viewing of it so far, it hasn't talked about that at all. And I'm trying to remember the other. Oh, okay. The funniest thing about this game so far has been there is a social media app that's almost it's like Nextdoor and Facebook had a baby. So you'll get on there and
Hmm.
someone will post something, and anybody in the community can like respond to it pretty much. So you'll have Gabe post something about Alex, and then like other people in the town, like you'll see like the store owner Jed make a comment about it, or some dude you don't even know talk about it. And it's been pretty. It's kind of cute in a dumb way that I don't think would ever actually work out, but it works in this community they're trying to build, where it's this tight knit small town vibe that you're getting from
Yeah,
this game specifically.
yeah, and it's also like it sounds like the sort of the the ideal sort of vision of something like next door is that there's like something an actual like utility to it, and it's not just your neighbors complaining about the homeless people who live in your area and like asking why they can't get the police to get them out of there.
Yeah, or like suspicious persons, blah blah, or pets
Yeah.
lost. I don't go on next. I've been on there a couple times. Like, oh, this is weird. I shouldn't look into this. But you do
No.
get like you will get like email notifications throughout the game at certain points, and you can kind of check them. And like it does, the game has like a strolling like way of like doling these out to you as the game goes on, and you can kind of get reads on people and get a little more insight into what's going on, which is like a really fun way to line that part of the game up with like the actual narrative going on with it. So I'm liking it so far. I can't wait to finish it. I think I've got about 4 or 5 hours to watch of it, and it's cool. I really like it. I'm surprised. They were showing it off, and I was like, okay, this looks like a Life is Strange game. I didn't really mesh with the first one because it was the characters in high school thing, which I'm come back and forth to. But Alex is 21 and she's coming to a town, and I think it resonates a little more with me, more than the first game. So it's
Yeah.
cool. Definitely recommend it.
Yeah. I like. I look forward to like the time when I can actually get around to that, and I'm thinking I need to find a way to get into that second game beforehand. I'd like to play that one. I know they're not like narratively connected, but like it does suck that that second game did like so poorly that Dot Nod just kind of left this franchise behind.
Oh yeah, so True Colors is a different
Is by Deck
developer,
Nine,
and they were the
who
ones who worked
did
on the Before the Storm
Before the
prequel for the
Storm
first game.
prequel.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I like the writing. I think they're doing a really good job on it so far. So
Yeah,
works for me.
like the worst parts of that prequel are the parts where it remembers it's a prequel, you know? Um, like I will say from what I've played of Life is Strange so far, which has just been that first game before the storm, and The Adventures of Captain Spirit, which is that one-off prequel episode of that second game. Like the second episode of Before the Storm is like genuinely some of the best Life is Strange.
Cool. I'll have to check that out too. But they did end up wrapping up all of Life is Strange too, right? They didn't like
Yeah,
stop at some
the Life
point.
is Strange is finished. It's all finished. It's just Dontnod like it did not do well enough, and Dontnod was just like, okay, we're gonna leave this behind, and that's why they also started. They made that other game, Twin Mirrors, I believe, which is the
Yes. Oh, and
game set in
Tell Me
Alaska.
Why as well, right?
Tell Me Why. I don't think Tell Me Why is .NOD.
I think they are because I remember
Oh no, no, it's.
someone
Oh yeah,
talking
no.
about
Okay,
it a
so Tell
lot.
Me Why is the one in Alaska. Twin Mirrors is. I don't think Twin Mirrors is out,
It said it came
or if it
out
did.
last year. It came
Okay,
December apparently.
is this? Oh my goodness. Okay, so Twin Mirrors didn't do well. I think people didn't like Twin Mirrors. So it's Tell Me Why is the one where you are two siblings or two twins um, in Alaska, sort of investigating what happened the night your mother tried to kill the one of the protagonists, the trans male protagonist, um, as a child, and that's Tell Me Why. Twin Mirrors is a whole other game that I don't have the capacity to really read into right now because it
Yeah.
seems
Well,
horrid.
I have a friend who posts a lot about Tell Me Why when it came out. So I might go check it out after I'm done with like my Life is Strange little hole that
Yeah,
I'm in right now.
I mean,
So
yeah, it's on Game
it's
Pass.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, very cool
Yeah, it's on
stuff.
Game Pass and it's not free. It was free on Steam during Pride, so I do have Tell Me Why. It's just I couldn't get past that first episode.
Yeah, well, I think it's really cool that these narrative games can be on Game Pass. Like, Tell Me Why is like a perfect idea of like a Game Pass game to me, as well as like a Plague Tale, an Innocent Story, and like all of these almost narrative stuff where it's like whether or not they hit is well or not well, you're still getting like an experience out of them. Where it's kind of the same as like getting into Netflix and finding like the new thing that came out and seeing how it is. And I think there is value to stuff like I'm not talking about the quality of Tell Me Why because I don't know about it, but I think there are things that are can be a little cheesier or almost like you were talking about like the Hallmark ish qualities of like some of the Life is Strange stuff, where it can be kind of fun to go through those experiences. And I hope that Nod ends up like doing more stuff on Game Pass because I think that's a really smart move. Because what Xbox Game Studios published that game as well for Tell Me Why.
Yeah, yeah. Tell Me Why was done in publishing partnership with Xbox Studios.
Yeah,
It's I mean, sure. I mean, the thing with like Game Pass is it helps with like getting people to discover games. The problem is, um, like is again the question that we're gonna have to see if we can answer within the next few years. Is like how sustainable is this to like this type of game being able to succeed to like live even right? Like is this sort of how games of this type live in an industry where we constantly prioritize hyper visual fidelity in like we want to see the individual beard hairs on Kratos's face. Um, like is subscription services like Game Pass, are subscription services like Game Pass, the answer to like does your middling budget game get to live? Because like that's kind of its own fraught topic that I don't think we necessarily have time to get into in the
no,
ways that we should.
because I'm just gonna talk about just for a sec because there are like games between the niche and popular but not super popular that don't sell. It's like I think before Deathloop came out, I think the Arcane was kind of in that space. So I'm curious how they're gonna be within stuff coming to Game Pass because I know Dishonored 2 like didn't do as well for them, and I think Prey did pretty well, but not like gangbusters. So I'm curious what those will do in that space going forward. And then my last thing I'll say about Life is Strange 2 Colors is they put all this out at once instead of doing the chapters.
Yeah,
I'm on Tell Me Why, and it looks like those released about 2 weeks from apart from each other.
yeah, they're not doing the episodic
Which I think
releases
that's a
of
good idea.
chapters. Well, yeah, like there's never that model has never worked. That model worked once, um, or maybe twice if you consider the Half-Life 2 example, even though that never finished. But like the episodic sort of structure, we thought it worked when Telltale's The Walking Dead came out, but then we realized, um, turns out it only did that one time.
Yeah, and uh, like Walking Dead was such a cultural moment for so many people that I think that worked. But what you see from the chapters and releasing them far enough apart is that people fall off after, and I don't think the development costs are like recouped as much. Because like even Hitman 2, was it 1 or 2 that released like episodically? I can't
It
remember.
was that was the first one.
Okay, so yeah, 2 and 3 were just we're putting these all at the same time. It's probably a better idea to get
Yeah,
the
putting them all at
investment
the
up
same time.
front
Yeah.
instead of all these chunks. It does make
Well,
it an
yeah,
interesting. Like I like to look on Twitter every now and then to see, oh, this new Hitman episode is out. People are talking about it, but I think realistically, it's better to do it all at once.
yeah. Well, yeah. Because the thing there is, when you decide to do something episodically, you have those people who are going to say, "I'm going to wait for everything to drop," right? Like I was one of those people with episodic games. Like I would wait for every episode to release because as review like projects are coming out, they're like each individual episode, and I'm not super big on like buying a season of a game and like waiting to see if like this is all going to play out well enough or if it's all just going to fall apart. I think they're trying something really interesting with those Hitman levels, but Hitman is already like such a niche, a relatively niche, like sort of stealth action property that maybe that doesn't necessarily work as well for like getting new people into it. And it's a similar thing with like Life is Strange. Like the amount of time between the episodes of that second game was so long. They were so long, and people absolutely fell off in the meantime. So like you have to, I think like the only way that makes sense like for games and the episode format is to release them all at once.
Yeah, and it's much like a like when TV shows. Like even I have a hard time like watching a season of TV that will have like a cliffhanger at the end because I just kind of want to watch all of it. So I think it works out. I agree with you.
Yeah, and you're not like, and the thing with TV shows, you're not paying for an individual show, right? Like that's the thing. Like you pay for services to get access to these shows, but like you are not paying for like each individual episode of each individual TV
Yeah,
show. Generally
yeah.
speaking.
Generally speaking, the only time I've ever done that the other way is like I'll buy a season of Better Call Saul, and then the end of it's a cliffhanger. I'm like, okay, thanks guys. That's
Yeah.
a very rare case that doesn't come up as much.
Yeah, but like the cliffhanger doesn't like nullify the arcs that exist in that season is the thing.
No, they
Like a TV
no
show
they
with a
don't.
cliffhanger is like it's fine. Like that first season, like I'll use this because this is what I'm watching right now. Like that first season of Twin Peaks is still like a really fascinating piece of TV, even with like the cliffhanger ending that leads into the second season and all the production values around all the production sort of problems around that season of TV.
Yeah, it's just a personal thing that I like.
Yeah,
I want to watch all of it through. You know, when it's like that, the
yeah,
option to binge something or just to watch it all through and not have to wait for it all. Which,
yeah, absolutely. Like I get
yeah,
that. Like
that's a
that's
side
why like I
conversation.
can't like I can't watch Battlestar Galactica without watching all of Battlestar Galactica. I get it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Sable, which is a game being put out by Shedworks and is currently on Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass as well.
Yeah, yeah. So it's on consoles, it's on Xbox Game Pass, and that's also on PC. That's how I'm playing it right now. Is on the PC Game Pass application. Yeah, so sort of set up for Sable. You are a young woman who is a part of this sort of nomadic culture on on this desert planet, right? And you have reached the age for your gliding, which is this sort of coming of age ceremony where you will sort of depart from your tribe, from your clan, and will go out and explore the world to find out what you want to do with the rest of your life. And that's like sort of the simple setup here. And it's sort of the aesthetic of this game is, I would say, the sort of touchstone that everyone references when talking about this game is if you've ever seen the works of the French illustrator Mobius. Um, that is like sort of the aesthetic that this game's world is going for, and just sort of the way that it interacts with like how like the colors of objects in the distance all blend together until you get closer to them, and then they become like more visually distinct in very interesting ways, and also just the aesthetic of the the kind of forgotten world, because you're a post apocalypse thing, right? Like you are civilization after the apocalypse, and there are these traces of a world before y'all that usually come in the form of these crashed ships that sort of are spotted around the desert. In the tutorial of the game, you find one that you have to mess with to get a ship part. It's actually kind of interesting because it seems that people have been messing with these ships like pretty recently, because when you get to the bridge of that ship, you get a recording that is like two of the uh, machinists in this game, which is these sort of the people who have decided they are going to learn to understand machines. They are fiddling with this ship and are trying to get it going and like get it in the air for a few seconds until it crashes again. Right, so there is this sense of a world before y'all, and one that y'all are just barely starting to understand, which is something else that you can interact with as you sort of explore this larger world.
Well, it seems really cool so far. I
And
remember that demo
yeah,
came out, and I really like the art style, and it's doing a lot for me. How far have you gotten, by the way?
yeah, not too far. Unfortunately, I haven't had like a whole lot of time to go through it. What's happened is I have done the entirety of the demo. Was include the demo, right? So the making of the bike, and then after you make the bike, you go and you make your the mask for your gliding. And once you get that mask, you then leave, and then you are allowed to you're kind of pushed out into the open world, uh, and you're put in a direction to a settlement, to a I believe it's like called Burning Oak Station, where the game directs you to talking to this machinist, so that way you can get a quest and also learn that there is bike customization in this game. Um, and I'm a little bit past that point. I just went to a ship and I spoke with, I guess, the onboard AI of the ship that managed the daily tasks of running a interstellar vessel, that has since sort of told me to find other pieces of it, and then it will reveal, I guess, more of how things got to the point that they are, which is interesting. It's not uninteresting. It's just it says most of the game is like you get a quest, and the quest will usually end with, well, there's more to this, but you got to go find it, right? And so that's the way the game sort of just saying like there's definitely more out there for you, but like it's not going to direct you to where you need to go to find it, because the whole sort of thing about this game is that you are just slowly exploring this world, and you'll probably miss some stuff as you go, and that's okay. That's fine. It's just as long as you are enjoying the act of getting on your bike, going across these dunes, and listening to some dope tracks by Japanese Breakfast, and talking with the people in the world around you, you're gonna get the full experience of this game.
Yeah, everything I've seen from it so far seems really cool. I do want to mess around on that jet bike a lot more. It seems like a pretty rad stuff going on. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I'll have to download it one time and mess around with it on Game Pass as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool game. Like even sort of removing the sort of gameplay loop and how unique the aesthetic is, and like just how beautiful it is to be in this game and to look at it in motion. Like it's also very compelling because the core narrative of it is just filled with so much care and like genuine affection between people in this sort of like in this nomadic society. Um, like one of the first bits of advice you're given in this game is like from the person who gives you your arbitrary, open world gliding ability, right? Because this is another sort of Breath of the Wild, like where you can climb anything, and when you do a jump, you can hold down the jump button, and you'll like sort of glide through the air. Uh, Like one of the first pieces of advice this character gives you is to just sort of look for the joy in everything you're in what you're doing and in the world you're interacting with. And it's filled with that. Like the people you interact with are so affectionate towards you and are just kind of happy that they can help along this child as they discover like what it is they actually want to do and the identity they want to forge within this culture. And it's fascinating. And I think it's really well done and pretty poignant at the parts where like it wants to tug at your heartstrings.
Yeah, it seems cool. I think we're at that tugging at heartstrings moment in two games we're both playing. So good feel good feels all around, I guess. I'm trying to think of something clever to say, but I don't care. Anyway, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to mess with it at some point. So
Yeah. You should. It's definitely really cool. I will definitely say that there are some like there are some technical hiccups in it, right? It is kind of rough right now. I don't think it's anything too bad. Like it's just some frame hitching. Also, there's like some gameplay elements. Like like you played the demo, right? So, you remember the part of that game where like you go into that ship to get that part in the tutorial, and that girl comes out and tells you she hid the part.
not
Um,
really.
okay, well that's a situation you get into as you're trying to build your bike the first time. Um, and so there's this like kid who runs up to you, and once you leave the ship, it's like, I hit the part you need. I need you to go get me three beetles. Um, the act of getting those three beetles is like the worst thing I've played recently because like you have to sneakily walk up to them, and if they get any sort of sight of you or whiff of you, they start running, and you can't grab them while they're running. So what I did is I went to where I knew the child had hidden the part, and I just took it instead of doing the whole beetle
That's
thing.
pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty great, and it's also just a really nice little quest because it is sort of because this is like a coming of age thing, and so it does kind of juxtapose like your own nervousness with like the uh, very emotional state of like everyone around you, including this child who like doesn't understand why you have to go and is like very scared of life without you, and that's like part of the emotional core of this game. Like people are realizing that they'll probably end up living a life where they may never see you again. And that's not because like you'll die or anything. It's just because you might choose a path that will take you away from them, and it's very good.
Yeah, it seems really cool. I think that'll probably wrap us up for this week, unless you had any other Sable thoughts.
No, no. I think like this is what I'm gonna try to get into as much as I can. I don't know if I'll be playing much of it over the coming days as I'm like sort of doubling down on writing right now, but like maybe the week after next, hopefully I'll have finished it alongside the like three other games I'm trying to finish, Metal Gear Solid and that Outer Wilds DLC.
Oh yes, speaking of Metal Gear Solid, they just had the 2 and 3 pack on Xbox on sale, so I for like $5, so I
Mm-hmm.
scooped those up.
Yeah,
So maybe I'll play
absolutely.
some 3 and talk about my good memories of that
Yeah.
one.
No,
Um,
three's cool. Like three is a game I wish I had had more than like 4 days to finish, so I could actually learn how its gameplay worked.
yeah, 3 I definitely played 3 like over a couple months, just kind of like poking at it a couple times and then coming back to it. Um,
Yeah.
Talking about next week, I think there is a Hot Wheels game coming to Game Pass that has been getting
Yep.
pretty decent
There is.
reviews, so I'm going to touch that a little bit. Very excited.
Yeah.
Halo Infinite Flight will continue this weekend coming up. The week after that, Battlefield 2042 is getting their open beta. I might be
Mm-hmm.
able to mess with that closed beta if there's like a gold version of Battlefield 2042 I can pre-order. That's only like $20 more, and it comes with a bunch of Battle Pass stuff that I'm probably already would probably buy anyway. So I'll probably
Mm-hmm.
pick that pre-order up, so I can get into that beta. And then I think that fucking gold edition lets me play Battlefield a week early too. So I'm like, I'll give you your $20 so I can play this a week early. EA and Ubisoft does that a lot. I think it's kind of shitty, but businesses want to make their money, and that's the choice they
Yeah.
make. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it because this Battlefield could be a huge one, and like I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I do too. I was actually streaming some Battlefield 5 yesterday, just kind of messing around with it. I didn't really get any viewers coming in, but I was just getting
Oh
back.
no,
No,
yeah,
it's real. Twitch is such a nightmare escape for any type of new user. That's
yeah.
not.
For any like new
Mhm.
user, like trying to get discovered, Twitch is not worthwhile. Like I know there was a story that came out years ago that was about people who had been streaming on Twitch for like months and years to zero viewers. It's a really depressing like state of things on as far as like discoverability on Twitch. I think the biggest audience I ever had was like 3 people when I said I was going to stream PT, like one Halloween, and that was about it. Like we didn't even interact that much. It was just like 2 friends who were laughing at me as I was getting really scared.
Yeah, there is like a deeper weighted like mess with kind of like I was the most people I had was like 20 because I was doing the end
Mm-hmm.
game of Kingdom Hearts 3 and I'd never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
I beat the game and it ended and everyone kind of scuttled off and I was like, "Wow, man, the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, the battle is bad." It anyway. Besides that, yeah, Twitch is weird. I might if I clip a bunch of stuff from Twitch and throw them on YouTube. That's one way of getting a little bit of discoverability, but I'm gonna mess around with it. But you can almost say Battlefield 2042 is my time, Austin. I've been playing Battlefield games for 10 years. It's my time. So
All
I'm
right, all
a lot of people are going to be playing it. I'm not in no way like the prospects of like getting any types of views in like Apex right now. Like 80,000 people are usually watching people play that and there's no discoverability for anybody under like 10 views who just want to play Apex. So you have to be very picky on games. It's a weird, such a weird system. But yeah, I'm gonna go play some Battlefield. I'm ready for it. I'm hopefully curious about the ways those maps are gonna be. Like if I have 63 other people on my team, are we gonna be spread out? Probably. Are we gonna be
Yeah.
able to push objectives together? Don't know. I'm curious because there are points in like I was playing 5 where like there are 10 of us on an objective. We are able to push it because there's only 6 people spawning there, but then people spawn more at certain stuff. That's just conquest. Not talking about like
Yeah.
the other mode, which is like a static line that you push where everybody spawns on that side and we spawn on this side and we push each other. I'm trying to remember what that one was called, but it doesn't matter. So I'll take a look at that. And I'll probably end up maybe I'll have some Gravity Rush in there. We'll see what's going on. But I'm really curious about that Hot Wheels game because it sounds pretty fun and I like arcadey racers and it's got a bunch of really cool map customization in the sense that I can go find lobbies and games created by other people and go see some different stuff, almost like Little Big Planet or Mod Nation Racers or even the what's that PC heavy one that's like has a lot of Euro beat in it when you're racing.
I
Trackmania. It's
I
called
don't
Trackmania.
know. Sure. Yeah. That
Trackmania is
one.
a very cool. It's server based, and a lot of people will make maps like that, and you go into custom races, and it's wild. That'll be a conversation for another time. Trackmania Turbo is very cool. All right, thanks for joining me, Austin.
Absolutely. Thank you for having
All
me.
right, we will see y'all next week. I'll see you some other time, maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
I'll,
When I emerge from my cocoon.
yes, the writing cocoon that you are
Yeah.
in right now. Hey, where do you want to? Where's your writing going to be up at? Do people want to check? If people
Yeah.
have stuck around for 80 minutes,
I will. I think next week. I think when it's published, then I'll boast about it. It's. I will say if. The thing is, I haven't done a lot of freelance work, so I don't know what the etiquette of this is. So I'm gonna err on the side of caution and say like once it's published, then I'll boast about it.
it's a good idea. I thought it was some stuff was out already. We good though.
No, not yet.
All right, and I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for joining us.
All right, bye.